It's December 18th, 2024. In the Oklahoma State Penitentiary, a guard approaches one of the 200 cells in death row and finds a prisoner inside sitting on the edge of his bed. It's 10 a.m. Kevin Ray Underwood has 24 hours left to live.
200 people on death row is crazy.
Not every state in the U.S. allows or uses the death penalty. The ones that do all have different execution protocols. But generally speaking, the timeline of events is similar with slight differences in the details. These protocols can take months of preparation. Also that the day of execution is, well, perfectly executed. This is what happens in the last 24 hours on death row.
I ain't gonna lie, what y'all boys would do if y'all had death row? I ain't gonna lie, bro. It's really nothing you can do for real. I can't lie. I ain't gonna lie, it's really nothing you can do for real. If you got death row game, you gotta think. It's literally over for you. You like, even if you try to escape, they go catch you. And they might death row you from escaping. Even if you try to fight the cops back, try to harm them so you can, I guess, get out of there, they still go death row you. Literally, no matter what, it leads to death row. So once they put you on death row, you're literally cooked unless you could somehow, I don't know, pull out the impossible. Like you got crazy connections, somebody can come get you out. You got crazy connections with bad cops that can get you out, move you. That's like the only way you can get out of it is connections to the right people. Other than that, once you on that death row, you cook. Unless you best friends with the president, he can get you out. Like something like, it got to be some rare case for you to get out of there. Other than that, gang, you cook. You know what I'm saying? But I heard you can eat you like a little cheesecake as your last meal for you dip. Well, not a cheesecake, but basically like your favorite meal. I ain't gonna lie. If I was on death row game, I just realized I'm cooked. I ain't gonna lie, I'm still gonna try to figure some way out to try to get out of there. And I think I'm cooked. And my last meal, I'm gonna at least eat a meal that'll take me a good 2 hours to eat. Cause you know what I'm saying? I think that for me to eat all my favorite foods, it probably take me a 2 hour plus. It gotta be a meal that big so I can save every moment. And they gonna have to give me an AirPod and a phone so I can watch some YouTube videos while I eat or something, or Netflix. Cause when I eat, I gotta watch something. I can't just eat and not watch something. Like when I watch something, I eat every time. You just like me for real. I know you do the same. But that's how I do my death row. Other than that, gang, like, yeah, you feel me? I wonder how they do death row though. I heard about the chair and a needle before. But I wonder, is it new? Like, did it change now? Do they still do the chair, like electric chair, or the needle still? But yeah, I wonder why they just want to do it like quick and easy, like using the bullet, you know what I'm saying? Like, pow, you know what I'm saying, or something. But maybe, you know.
Kevin Ray Underwood is a death row inmate at Oklahoma State Penitentiary. 34 days ago, he was strip searched and x-rayed for any tools with which he could hurt himself.
Another thing, I wonder what you got to do for them to be like, oh yeah, bro, you're definitely getting death row. I wonder what you got to do to get that.
And then
because obviously murder don't get you death row, I don't think, because everybody that do murder get either probably 20 to life in most states.
Relocated from the prison's A unit to its H unit. The execution protocol typically begins like this: relocating a prisoner from his usual cell to another location with an execution chamber. Among prison guards, they call it the death house. In most states, the relocation happens around 24 hours before the execution, and not all prisons have execution chambers. If this is the case, the prisoner gets taken to one. This is the most vulnerable moment of the execution protocol. Some prisons send decoy transports through different routes to prevent an ambush, although it has never happened. When they reach their destination,
it would have happened if it was me.
Steps out of the vehicle. This is the last time they see sunlight and breathe fresh air. Now the prisoner gets escorted into the death house and is taken into a cell just a few steps away from the execution chamber. It has a bed, a shower, a toilet, and a desk, much like a regular cell except clean. For a prison, it's a true luxury. In Underwood's case, it is far from it. Amnesty International described the conditions
They're trying to make sure they see something good and pretty before they go.
at
A clean
Oklahoma State
room.
Penitentiary's H Unit as inhuman and degrading, comparing the cells to concrete tombs. For his last 24 hours, Underwood is on death watch. A guard watches his every move, not to prevent him from escaping, but from harming himself. Underwood is not allowed to leave his cell, so around noon the guards bring breakfast directly to him. It's a small meal from the prison kitchen and something to drink. Nothing special, for now. After breakfast, if they wish, inmates can receive visitations from friends, family, lawyers, and the press. Some states allow highly supervised contact visits. Others let them speak to visitors through a glass partition. In Oklahoma, Underwood is only allowed no-contact visitations on the days leading up to his execution.
I did not know they would allow visitation during death row. That's crazy.
When visitation hours end, prisoners can only speak with the prison warden and a chaplain. For many, this time can be overwhelming and traumatic. The chaplain's job is to prepare the inmates for what's coming next. It's common for their religions to differ, but the chaplain's job is to be a prisoner's unbiased spiritual advisor. He might help them write letters, pray, or even sing with them. Mostly, he's just there to listen and keep company. But for many inmates, it is not easy to come to terms with the fact that they will never speak to their loved ones again, that their life is already over. The sun is down, and they have barely 12 hours left to live.
Dang.
The night before Underwood's execution, it's time for the infamous last meal, which he requested around a month ago. Death row inmates in the U.S. spend on average just under 19 years in prison before their execution. This last meal is likely their first time choosing what to eat in decades. It's a symbolic gesture to acknowledge their humanity, a final taste of freedom. Movies often show prisons going above and beyond to fulfill an inmate's every request, usually a luxurious delicacy. But this is far from reality. In Texas, the last meal request was abolished after one prisoner requested a large, expensive meal and didn't eat it.
Oh, I was about to say that's me for real. I'm just like him. But didn't eat it is crazy. Like, what? You ain't even hurt nobody but yourself at that point. Like, come on, gang. I'm like, what?
Since then, death row inmates have received standard issue prison food instead.
Talk about once Ryan Apple literally spoiled the bunch just because he literally got everything he want and didn't eat it to try to be funny for the giggles. He missed on everybody else's opportunity to get a last meal. That's crazy.
In most states, the last meal is given a day or two before the execution and called a special meal instead. Alcohol and tobacco are not usually on the menu, but for the meal, most state policies say prisons must make a reasonable effort to fulfill the prisoner's request. However, there are strict limits on what they can order.
25.
California gives inmates a $50 budget for their last meal. Florida gives them $40, and the food must be available locally. In Oklahoma, Underwood's last meal has a maximum budget of just $25. We were not able to confirm his specific request on time, but you can likely find it by searching for his name on Wikipedia's last meal page. After the last meal, Underwood is allowed to sleep. The chaplain stays behind to offer his help, because many inmates remain awake throughout the night, writing letters or just in silence. Tomorrow is an important day, and it is just overwhelming to think about. On the day of execution, the guards wake Underwood up at around 4:30 a.m. He is given 15 minutes to shower and issued a new uniform. In some states,
Bro, you know what I just thought? Didn't Boosie beat Death Row? That boy cold. Oh my, bro. Like I said, bro, it's like even things that you know exist or that are true in the world, it hit different when you see it before your eyes. Even though you already know it's real, it hit different when you see it for yourself. But actually seeing the process, what this look like, didn't Boosie avoid this? Like, that's crazy. Like, bro, like, he literally avoided bottom of the bottom. Like that boy cold. A lot of y'all are fold being facing death row. Man, but I think death row probably sound worse than a life sentence. Or they probably neck and neck. I don't know. But they probably neck and neck. Yeah, they probably neck and neck. I don't know. It really comes to the point, what do you value? Do you value life more living in these conditions or not? It really come to that, actually. So, yeah. Because if you don't value it, you probably don't care that you on death row. But if you value it, you like, oh, you rather do life. So it really comes down to what you value. You know what I'm saying? But the fact that Boosie avoided this is crazy. To this day, my boy living life free, rich. Like, that's crazy. He was facing it. Like, that's crazy. Bro, real deal. Like, that's crazy.
A few extra buttons and maybe a different color. In most, the uniform is identical to the one before, except clean. However, every state gives the inmate an adult diaper. Death causes people to lose control of their muscles. If they are not empty, the inmate's bowels and bladder can release their contents and cause a big, stinky mess. The diaper is a precautionary measure to keep things clean and preserve the inmate's dignity in their final moments. Now, the warden gives Underwood a summary of what's about to happen, and then leaves to make sure all the preparations are in order. In the nearby execution chamber, a team of medical experts has been reviewing the execution protocol, testing equipment, and double-checking supplies throughout the night. Nothing can go wrong. Back in the cell, the chaplain is keeping Underwood company in his last few hours. Depending on a prisoner's religion, they might want to make a final confession, say some prayers, or just have a conversation. It's also an opportunity to think about or write down their last words. With 2 hours remaining, Underwood's friends and relatives, his victim's family, lawyers, some regular citizens, and the press will arrive at the prison to witness his execution. The warden will meet them at the entrance and escort them to a witness room. In Illinois, the inmate's family can only witness the execution through a television screen. But in most states, the witness room is adjacent to the execution chamber, separated by see-through glass or a one-way mirror, in which case you can only see into the room, but not out. For now, the glass is covered by a curtain, and the warden asks the witnesses to remain in complete silence, especially if the inmate and victim's families.
Wait. I think that went over my head. Wait.
In the glass chamber, citizens and the press. With 2 hours remaining, Underwood's friends and relatives, his victim's family, lawyers, some regular citizens, and the press will arrive at the prison to witness his execution.
Giving him an audience is crazy. I see why the victim family want to watch it. Okay. Like, they see it as justice, revenge, aka get back. That makes sense. But being a family member and watching that happen to a family member and you can't do nothing about it, random citizens, why y'all want to see that for? A lawyer? What you want to see that for? Like, I guess.
The warden will meet them at the entrance and escort them to a witness room. In Illinois, the inmate's family can only witness the execution through a television screen. But in most states, the witness room is adjacent to the execution chamber, separated by see-through glass or a one-way mirror, in which case you can only see into the room, but not out. For now, the glass is covered by a curtain, and the warden asks the witnesses to remain in complete silence, especially if the inmate and victim's families are in the same room. Fights can break out. With 1 hour until the execution, The warden walks back to Underwood's cell and tells him exactly what the next steps are. Once he signals to the guards, they handcuff Underwood and lead him out of the cell. Like most death row inmates, Underwood does not give the guards any trouble during the short walk to the execution chamber. He walks right in, and the door shuts behind him. There is no going back now.
Crazy.
Executions should be as painless as possible for the prisoner. Among the legal methods of execution in the US, hanging is the most painful, followed by gassing, electrocution, shooting, and lethal injection. Lethal injection.
Wow, they named two on that I know, the chair and lethal injection. That's crazy. Yeah, those other ones are outrageous, especially
became the default execution method in the US in the early 80s. Electrocution was common before that. Today, some states allow prisoners to choose their execution method, with some restrictions. In Utah, inmates who were sentenced before 2004 can choose to be executed by a firing squad if the drugs for lethal injection are not available. Tennessee has
a firing squad. So that means they use your human body for target practice. Yeah, okay.
Has a similar policy for electrocution. Alabama used nitrogen hypoxia gas for 2 executions in 2024. Underwood will be executed by lethal injection. There are multiple people inside the execution chamber when Underwood enters, but the first thing he notices is the stretcher in the middle, known as a gurney. It is imposing in such a tiny room. There is also an electrocardiogram, a telephone on the wall, and a curtain separating the execution chamber from the witness room. Underwood lies down on the gurney, and a tie-down team straps his arms, legs, and torso tightly. The nurses also hook him up to the electrocardiogram, which monitors his heartbeat. To prepare for the lethal injection, an IV team looks for 2 veins in each of his arms. If Underwood is under high amounts of stress, his veins can hide, making the process longer, more painful, or even impossible. But this is extremely rare. Once the IV team finds the veins, they rub alcohol or iodine on the injection spot and insert 2 intravenous tubes. One of these is meant to deliver Underwood's final dose. The other is there in case the first one malfunctions. The tubes lead to a small opening in the execution room's wall, opposite an observation room. An executioner is on the other side. To test the tubes, the IV team pumps a harmless solution into Underwood's veins. Everything checks out. With 15 minutes until his execution, Underwood is staring at the phone on the wall. At any moment, the warden could receive a call from the governor's office, letting him know that Underwood has been granted a stay of execution. If important new evidence about his case is found or the courts approve a last-minute appeal, the execution could be delayed. If his sentence is suddenly changed to life in prison, it could be canceled altogether. The telephone.
Imagine being about to get executed and that phone ring. I bet that's probably one of the most, but like that's I open like, boy, guy real, boy. If you real deal on that thing, laying they already got it in you. Then that phone ring be like, yeah, things change. He don't get death row. He just get life or something else. Like he found innocent. Boy, imagine what that feeling is. I bet that feeling probably bro. That level of feeling of literally almost being close to death, bro. And bam, life come right back. Like I bet that feeling like so unique. Like you can't even fathom. Like I can't even think myself what they feel like. Like it's crazy. I wonder has that ever happened to somebody before? Like they be on that thing laid down and boom, they case change.
Is Underwood's only hope. But for now, the nurses point him towards the curtain and the warden pulls it up. On the other side, the witnesses see Underwood for the first time. He can see them too. Death row prisoners have the option to make a final statement. The warden brings a microphone close to Underwood's face. He will remove it if his statement is too long, vulgar, or intentionally insulting to a witness. He can also choose to say nothing, and many death row inmates do. After his statement is over, Underwood turns his head to face the telephone again. It never rings. The warden looks up from his watch, removes his glasses, and gives a slight nod towards the observation room. The executioner recognizes the signal. It's time. On the executioner's wall, there is a medication delivery device known as a manifold. Attached to it are 3 groups of large syringes that contain up to 60 milliliters of fluid. A typical COVID vaccine has anywhere between 1 and 5 milliliters. The leftmost syringe of each group contains a harmless saline solution. It's essential for flushing the drugs in the other syringes through the IV tubes and Underwood's bloodstream. Each group contains a different drug, an anesthetic, a paralyzing agent, and a toxin, one for each stage of the execution. After the warden's signal, the executioner approaches the manifold and pushes out the contents of the green syringes and flushes them with the saline solution. These syringes contain midazolam, a powerful anesthetic commonly used before surgeries.
Don't they make you go to
The
sleep?
National Institutes of Health says that 2.5 milligrams of midazolam injected intravenously is enough to sedate any healthy adult under 60. Right now, around 500 milligrams of it is coursing through Underwood's blood. It's 200 times the recommended dose. Such a large dose of midazolam can spill over into Underwood's lungs and make him feel like he is drowning. Not
What?
exactly humane, but the dose is also so large that he's likely rendered totally unconscious before he can feel this. Midazolam makes the brain flood its neurons with chloride ions, making them unable to fire electrical signals. Within a minute or two, Underwood's brain has effectively shut down, making the next 2 stages of his execution technically painless. Now the executioner moves on to the orange syringes. They contain vecuronium bromide, a kind of muscle relaxant. According to the NIH, someone who weighs 150 pounds, around 68 kilos, would be completely paralyzed for half an hour with just around 6 milligrams of vecuronium bromide. Underwood's dose is 100 milligrams. In around 90 seconds, the vecuronium bromide binds to the receptors in his muscle cells, blocking the signals that normally trigger muscle contractions. This paralyzes all his voluntary muscles, including the diaphragm, the muscle responsible for breathing. At this point, Underwood would die of asphyxiation in around 4 to 6 minutes. But instead, the executioner moves on to the final stage of the execution. The syringes with red labels contain potassium chloride. A regular dose of around 1.5 grams, spaced out over an hour, is an effective way to compensate for low levels of electrolytes in the blood. But at 18 grams, right into the bloodstream, delivered instantly, potassium chloride becomes a deadly toxin. Once this extremely high dose of potassium reaches Underwood's heart, it produces an incomprehensible...
Bro, I thought potassium was milk. Or am I tweaking? I thought potassium was milk. Or was it calcium? I'm so confused.
amount of electrical activity. For a few moments, his heart beats irregularly, lightning fast, and then stops altogether, sending him into immediate cardiac arrest. The electrocardiogram in the execution chamber flatlines. The IV team checks for vital signs, and the warden closes the curtain to the observation room. Underwood passed away within just 30 seconds of the potassium chloride touching his blood. The exact time of day when executions take place in the U.S. varies, but in the H Unit of Oklahoma State Penitentiary, Kevin Ray Underwood will be pronounced deceased around 10 a.m. on December 19th, 2024, the day of his 45th birthday. Depending on when you're watching, this could be a few minutes from
They did that to him on his birthday?
now, or years ago. As of October 2nd, 2024, 1,601 prisoners have been executed since the death penalty's reinstatement, and there are 2,213 prisoners still waiting on death row. Kevin Ray Underwood was the last person to be executed in the United States in 2024. He was sentenced to death in 2008 for the first-degree murder of a 10-year-old girl. Her name
He
was
tweaking.
Jamie Rose Bolin.
He tweaking. He tweaking.
Are you a planner? Are you a guy that likes to plan?
Not really, no.
Okay.
I certainly planned this out. I mean, I've been thinking about it for at least a month.
So,
At first, I just wanted to basically to eat someone, and then it turned.
What?
Underwood's trial lasted barely a few hours. Nobody doubted whether he was guilty.
out. And I was going to keep the body around for a couple of days. I was going to.
Underwood's lawyers did not dispute his guilt, but since he was never properly treated for his
He said he was thinking about Jeffrey Dahmer? He a Jeffrey Dahmer, bro? Like, bro, what the, bro? I ain't gonna lie, that fried my brain. He on some Jeffrey Dahmer type? Come on, King.
multiple severe mental illnesses, they argued he should not be sentenced to death.
what did she say when you hit her?
That's something that's, haunted me ever since it happened.
What Underwood did was wrong beyond description.
She started yelling, "I'm sorry." Which, I'm just like, what is she sorry for? She didn't do anything wrong. It's me, I'm the one that should be sorry.
Perhaps you believe he no longer deserves his life.
No, I know what I did was wrong, and I know that I deserve to be punished for it.
But do we as a society deserve to take it?
I mean, I ain't gonna say nothing, but that's crazy. I ain't gonna lie, this really made me think, what else go on in the world that we don't know about? It really gets you to wondering, what else go on in this world that we do not know about? What else? What else? Because I ain't even know how death row worked. Now that I've seen this, like, my perspective, like, different on it. Like it's crazy. I know exactly how it go. Like, and with the visual learning too, not just audio. That's crazy, gang. I ain't got no words, man. I ain't got no words. I ain't gonna lie. That Jeffrey Dahmer statement he made fried my brain for the rest of the video. I ain't gonna lie. I ain't got no words, man.